Hi, my name is Spencer and this is Amanda. We're from Steam Vapor Company in Laramie, Wyoming, and this is our first video as far as tutorials go for electronic cigarettes that we sell. One of the biggest elements of our brick and mortar store is that we want to make sure that we offer great customer service and that everyone who buys something from us knows exactly what they're getting, how to use it, how it works, and its general quality. So that's what we're here to do today, is to go over some new equipment. But speaking of our website,
it's www.steamvaporco.com, and that's Steam Vapor with a U.
Because we're fancy. But yeah, I think that's all we really need to cover in this little intro. So let's dig in.
Sorry.
So, as far as digging in goes, we've got a couple pieces of starter equipment here. We've got something really basic, like this Kanger T3S and this Kanger EVOD 650 milliamp hour Ego battery. So, as you're going to learn very quickly, the e-cigarette world is filled with its own jargon, and there's a bunch of stuff to learn as far as that's concerned. But the overall operation is a lot simpler than any of the jargon makes it sound. So,
and to give users an idea, this might be something that a very beginning user might start out with. Because it's very easy to use, it's very simple, and it's something that a person might want to start out with if they're just switching from cigarettes to e-cigarettes. And it's also the least expensive thing that we sell in our shop.
So a full setup like this would cost you about $18, even after tax, from our shop. So that's, you know, a smaller, simpler battery, a simple tank, and a charger like this one, which generally also comes with a wall adapter. So just to start off simply, basically what you've got in the tank, this one only has 3 parts, which is nice and simple, but the way you fill it is you open the bottom just by unscrewing it like so.
And if it was full of liquid, you would not want to open it that way.
You would open it this way, like that. When you fill it, I'm going to fill it here with a little bit of chocolate haze. This is one of our new flavors. It's high in vegetable glycerin, so it's more intended for a more advanced setup like this, but it should work just fine in one of these guys. So what you want to do is you'll notice that you've got 2 holes in there. You've got both the center hole, which is your airway, and the outside area that's still within the tube, that is your reservoir. So you don't want to put any liquid down the center hole there, because if you put it down that hole, it's just going to drip right out the mouthpiece and all over your clothes / desk. So,
and you'll be miserable.
You'll do something like this, where you'll take this nice little thin tip that all of our bottles have and aim it inside the bigger tube, but outside of the smaller tube.
You might want to do a side view.
Yeah, and you can actually see it fill up the tank. Let's see if I can get my fingers out of the way. Just like that. So you can kind of watch the level. I'm not going to fill this one all the way to the top, but as far as you want to fill it is just below that inside ring where the airway starts. So this one has a nice little meter on it.
It's right about there.
Right. And that nice little meter kind of tells you exactly where that level is. It's about 3 milliliters. So that's far enough as far as this little sample video goes. Then what you want to do is screw the base on. But you'll notice in the base there is another piece that will screw out. And this is your replaceable atomizer. These are pretty basic little devices. They've got a heating element inside, as well as these little wicks, these little puffy wicks that come out to the side to expose the liquid to the heating element. The only thing you really need to know about these as a beginner is to make sure that they're tight in the base here. So you want to screw that in with about as much force as you can muster with your bare fingers. Don't get out pliers or anything. Finger tight is good enough.
The other thing you might want to know is that they don't last forever. Eventually you want to replace them.
Yeah, so most of these will last for about 30 milliliters. This is a 30 milliliter bottle. Depending on the nicotine level, this volume of liquid is the equivalent of about 12 packs of cigarettes. So meaning that after you smoked 12 packs of cigarettes worth, you need to replace this little bit right here. From us, this particular model's about 25. So very small expense as far as the life of the e-cigarette goes and how long it's going to last.
But if you don't want to have to order from us again super soon, you probably want to order a pack of atomizers.
Right. And you can buy them in a pack of 5, or we also sell them individually. So you can buy 2, 3, 4, 10.
If you're not sure yet that you want to make a long-term investment.
Right.
Do you want to hand me that small little bottle over there so that we can
Sure.
give an idea of... so this little bottle is equivalent to 3 of these larger bottles.
Vice versa.
Oh, sorry. This little bottle is equivalent to 1/3 of one of these larger bottles. So once you get about 3 to 4 of these littler bottles through this, that's about when you want to replace your atomizer.
And you'll also notice kind of a smoky, burny taste once the atomizer gets that old. So most people, I mean, your mileage may vary as far as how long your atomizer will last, as far as how much liquid it will vaporize before it starts to go bad. So just use your tongue and kind of just feel out when it starts, flavor starts to drop and that smokiness starts to build up, and even vapor production will go down. So if it starts performing not as well, that can also be another reason to change your atomizer.
Yeah, that's probably about the first common complaint we get. So when folks come in and it's been a few weeks and they're saying, oh, well, this isn't working as well as it used to, our first question is, have you changed your atomizer?
Yep.
So
you want to make sure that the atomizer is nice and snug in the base. You want to make sure the little gaskets are kind of lined out and flat so that when they meet the surfaces they're going to seal against, that they get a good seal. And then you want to tighten this on really well. So give that, again, go until it comes to a full stop with just finger strength. Everything in an atomizer, or a clearmizer as this is called, a clear atomizer, is make sure everything in this section is tight. But when you go to put it on a battery, you don't want to go quite as tight. And the reason is that batteries will have, and this is going to be difficult to see, but batteries have slight insulators, little white insulators underneath that gold contact in there. And if you cram this down onto that contact, it's going to smash the insulator and cause a short. So we'll have a video that's more in depth about that later on, but all you need to know right now is that you don't need to go till this is all the way crammed down onto this. Really just go until you first feel resistance, which is right about there. You can kind of feel that little catch when it touches, and you just do about a half turn after that. You'll notice you might be able to see a small little space between the two right now. That's fine. You want to leave that. You also might notice a little bit of wobble there. Although that is annoying, that's better than cinching it down all the way and causing damage. So at this point, you really just need to give it a few minutes for that wick to saturate so that it will bring all the liquid it needs to the heating element. If you vape it before that point, you're going to get what's called a dry hit, where basically the coil inside overheats and is going to produce basically smoke, which we don't want. Of course, we're trying to create vapor. And so the whole idea here is to make sure that wick gets fully saturated and the coil, the heating element itself, is covered in liquid. There are a few tricks though to speed up that process. One of them is to apply a liquid directly to the wicks before you put it into the tank. Another way is to suck on the clearmizer, or the mouthpiece here, without firing the battery, and that suction will actually pull that liquid into the wicks. So I'll usually cover up 1 or 2 of the air holes with my fingers just to get even more suction. And do that trick a couple times just to pull that liquid in there. And you can actually see air bubbles coming up from the wicks. That's a really good sign. That means that the liquid's getting into the wick and displacing the air. So that's exactly what we want. I'm going to do a little more than I might usually with these, because this particular liquid, this chocolate haze, like I said earlier, has a lot of vegetable glycerin in it. So it's a lot thicker than liquids that have more propylene glycol in them. So of course a thicker liquid's not going to wick quite as readily as a thinner liquid would. Alright, so this little guy is off right now, and almost every starter battery cell, in fact I think every starter battery cell, has some kind of locking mechanism so that you can turn the battery off, and when you press the button it won't fire. The ones particularly for Kangers is 5 clicks in about 2 seconds worth of time. So in order to turn them on, this one's off right now. In order to turn them on, you got to give them a quick 5 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And yep, I got it. It's flashing there. That flashing lets you know that it's turned on now and it's ready to go. So now when you press the button, instead of nothing happening, you'll see that light light up. And if you paid close attention there, you could probably also hear it start to vaporize that liquid. I'll put it close to the microphone here. So that's a good sign. That means everything's working. That sound also means that some liquid at least has gotten into that wicking material, and that's what's causing that bubbling and popping sound.
And normally you don't really want to fire it a whole lot while you're not actually vaping on it.
Right.
Because otherwise it'll start to heat up because it doesn't have any airflow over the wicks.
Exactly. So one of the things we'll cover when we get into more advanced vaping is the balance between heat, the amount of liquid, and the air. So basically what you want to happen is you want to heat the liquid to what's roughly about 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and drawing air over that coil helps regulate that heat. So.
And that keeps it at a vaporization temperature rather than an actual combustion temperature.
Correct. So let's take a quick draw, and of course we don't expect a whole lot of vapor production off of a little guy like this, but you can get some satisfying flavor, and with higher nicotine levels you can definitely satisfy those nicotine cravings. So yeah, a little bit of flavor on there, decent vapor production, and overall a great device to start with. One, because it's super cheap, $17.50. It's way less than a carton of cigarettes. It's like 3 or 4 packs of cigarettes, so easy to get in on that commitment.
Really quite reliable, especially as far as other brands in this class go.
Right. That's one of the reasons we choose Kanger and why we carry Kanger for most of our starter equipment, is that it's very durable. I mean, glass and plastic tanks will definitely have certain limitations, but as
and they definitely won't last forever.
Right. With Kanger though, you can expect a much longer life than you would out of a lot of the cheaper, even the clone type batteries and tanks. These little 650 milliamp hour batteries, you know, we've sold 5,000 plus already from our brick and mortar store, and
in the span of about a year and a half.
Yeah, in about a year and a half. So quite a while. We've got quite a bit of experience selling these little batteries, and honestly, I think I've seen, even in that time, even that year and a half period of time, maybe a total of 5, maybe 10 of these come back where there was some kind of defect or broke before it should have. They won't take as much wear and tear as, say, a solid stick of stainless steel.
Right. If you run it over with a car or something, or you if it's user error, it's gonna break.
Yeah, it's possible to break these, but one of the things I like to tell our customers is to kind of treat them like their smartphones. Give them kind of the general sense of care as far as, oh, don't throw it around, try not to sit on it, don't drop it in the sink, stuff like that. It's still got a lithium-ion battery in there. In this form, it's pretty darn safe. It's got circuitry that protects it from short circuits and all that. But you still don't want to expose it to extreme elements or shock. So.
And again, if you press that battery button another 5 times, you can see it flash those 5 times. Now it's off again, so it's not going to fire.
Right. So now you can put it in your pocket or your purse without fear of it firing this little atomizer continuously, which we said will probably ruin the atomizer, get it that horrible smoky taste, and also produce quite a bit of heat. These little batteries have a 10-second cutoff in them, so let's turn it back on. They're going to shut themselves off after a continuous fire of 10 seconds or more. So you don't have to really worry about it like resting somewhere and then firing for an hour and a half and then eventually generating enough heat to catch something on fire.
Right. Or like, yeah, blowing up or something.
Right. So
with these batteries are generally very safe.
Yeah, they're very safe. They're incredibly durable. These little guys right here, the batteries by themselves, we sell them for $10.50. This Kanger T3S tank we sell for $5.50. And the chargers we sell for $2.
So you can always get backups of whatever you need. So
Right.
if you want 2 tanks to separate your flavors that you want to alternate, you can totally do that. If you want a spare battery so that you don't have to worry about charging it between or during the middle of the day, you can do that. You
Right.
don't have to worry about that. And it's all relatively very affordable.
And that's one of the things we definitely suggest. If you are a beginner and you're picking up your first starter kit, we definitely suggest either getting a larger battery than this one or to get at least 2 of these. For a person who smokes about a pack a day, this will get someone with an appropriate nicotine level through about 4 to 6 hours of the day. So you definitely want to have 2, so you can either have one in the charger while you're using this one, or you can leave one at home and switch to the one at home when you get back from work, something like that.
The other thing about appropriate nicotine levels is that you do want to either call and consult us or talk with us or just at least think about what your nicotine level should be.
Right.
So the nicotine level that he put in here is nicotine level 3.
A 3 milligram per milliliter concentration of nicotine for your daily dose of science.
Yeah, and it's a very low nicotine level. It's next to 0 as
Right.
far as the nicotine levels that we offer.
So don't expect to go from a pack-a-day habit to something as low as a 0, 3, or 6 level of nicotine.
At our shop, we have 0, 3, 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, and 36 milligrams per milliliter of nicotine.
Right. If you're used to a percentage scale, basically move the decimal point over 1, so that would be a 0.3%, 0.6%, all the way up to 18 for us would be a 1.8% for other shops.
Or a 2.4%
would be 24 milligram for us.
Mm-hmm.
So both of those systems are pretty widely used. Our personal suggestion for most pack-a-day smokers would be about an 18 milligram per milliliter concentration. For people who do pack and a half, 2 packs a day, you're going to start to want to look at the 24 to 30 milligram. 30 and 36 though are pretty crazy.
They are very high. Yeah.
Not a whole lot of shops even make that level of liquid, but we offer it, 1 as kind of a novelty, but 2 for that one guy who smokes 2 packs a day and goes through a can of chew all in one day.
Yeah, because sometimes if you need it, you really need it. And we do have customers that need it and that definitely use it. And that would be the only way that they could totally switch from using cigarettes to using e-liquid only.
Right. So a thing about nicotine levels, the higher the nicotine level, the more throat hit you're going to get. So the more discomfort, I guess you could say, in the back of your throat when you inhale. And the lower the nicotine level you go, the less discomfort in the back of the throat you're going to feel. Some people like that little sting, and it's really important as far as simulating smoking goes.
So it's all about finding a balance between getting enough nicotine, especially at first when you're switching, to having a comfortable amount of throat hit for you.
Right. So that pretty much covers one of the smaller usage guides like these. The last thing I'd like to show you as far as the equipment goes is how to charge it. So this is a really ratty old charger that I found in the back of basically my dresser drawer. But for the sake of argument, what you'll do is you will just screw in your battery. So you'll remove, let's start from the beginning here. You'll remove your claramizer just by unscrewing and gripping it here by the base. Near where it attaches to the battery.
Yeah, be careful not to grip it by this shiny, smooth metal part.
So yeah, if you break this seal right here, like that, you're going to eventually open this up and all the liquid's going to spill out. So you want to keep that part tight and closed, and instead grip exactly where it connects to the battery and twist the battery like so. That'll make sure that none of the liquid spills out of your tank. When you take the clearmizer off, you may notice a little bit of condensation on that golden contact in there. Condensation is totally normal. Even a small puddle is totally normal in there. However, if you've got this whole area basically filled with e-liquid, you've got a problem with your atomizer, and we can discuss that as far as troubleshooting.
Usually the atomizer is just a little bit loose.
Right, so that's one of the reasons why we suggested making sure that's tight in there. Good tight, finger tight tightness. And then the other thing to avoid, and some brand new users will do this, see now that I've got this crap. And so some people, what they'll do is they'll remove thinking that they're not supposed to be there, that it's buildup of some kind. But it's really important not to do that, because if you do that, the liquid or the wicks won't fill the holes for the wicks, and liquid will just pour through those holes into the top of your battery. So definitely don't touch those wicks until you're ready to replace the atomizer entirely. So yeah, just make sure this stays tight. The only reason to take this part off is to either replace the atomizer or fill it with liquid again. So as far as when to refill it, basically when you can no longer see any liquid in the tank, that's an immediate indication that it's time to refill it. Like I said, if you let the wicks get dry, you're going to get what we call a dry hit, which is horrible tasting and has put more than a few people off vaping entirely. So definitely avoid that process or that situation. So back to charging. You want to unscrew the clearmizer from the tank or the battery, and then screw the battery into the charger like so. And again, you don't want to over tighten it. You don't need to cinch it down all the way until it comes to a full complete stop. Really just screw it down until you first feel that first little bit of resistance, which in this case is right here. And honestly, with a charger, I wouldn't even go any further. I would just stop as soon as you feel that resistance. Usually most chargers will then change from a green LED here to a red LED to let you know that the battery is still charging, and then when the battery is full, it will go from red to green again. Some of them will even have a gradient, so they'll go red for all the way empty, yellow or orange for getting fuller, yellow for medium charge, and then green for fully charged. So,
and they usually take several hours. So
yeah,
if you're expecting it to be charged in half an hour, it's not going to happen.
Right. So a little guy like this get a full charge. It's only going to take 2 hours or so, as long as you plug in the USB part to something that provides good enough amperage. Usually we don't suggest charging them into, say, a laptop or even a desktop computer. Usually when you use a wall block adapter, which these come with when you buy them from us, or you could use something from our smartphone or tablet or something like that. Probably don't suggest the big 2-amp chargers for things like iPads. That can potentially damage the battery. Usually the charger will regulate that amperage down to a safe level, so you don't need to worry about it too much. A side note about chargers, I think most of the other stores have moved away from charging more than $5 or $6 for a charger. Just because there are models that are very similar to this that you can pay upwards of about $17 for. There's no reason to do
ridiculous.
that. Yeah, they're all made by the same factories in China. They all are equally reliable. So our philosophy on these is to really barely mark them up at all, sell them for $2, and offer a no questions asked replacement policy if one ever breaks on you. Just because unless you're going for something from one of the big companies like say Joytech, you're not going to get a better charger from anywhere else. So no reason to overpay on a charger. They're relatively safe. And like I said, we just have a no questions asked replacement policy on those. So if you bought one from us in the past, even if it's on the website, we'll just send you a new one if you have problems with your own.
Oh, the other thing you might have a problem with is if you're traveling, especially in Wyoming with fluctuations in altitude. A lot of people from here travel down to Denver or Fort Collins, and they will find that the tank leaks. Just a little bit, not a ton, but they'll find that the tank leaks when they travel. The best way to remedy that is to actually use the tank to help equalize the air pressure while you're traveling, actually while you're driving up and down altitude. But the other way to remedy that is to actually store it upside down if you're not going to be using it.
And that's something you only want to do with bottom coil atomizers.
With bottom coil atomizers.
If you have an atomizer that's close to your mouthpiece, definitely keep it upright.
Right.
If you've got an atomizer that's towards the bottom of the tank, be sure to store it upside down. And that helped a little bit.
Unless you're using it.
Right.
Otherwise, you might just have to clean it out a little bit.
Yeah. So especially,
when
when you make those changes in elevation, that's especially with bottom coil tanks. That's when you're most likely to find liquid in this little cup, if there's nothing wrong with your atomizer.
It usually doesn't mean it's broken. It usually just means you've been changing altitudes.
Right.
If that's the case.
And another thing that can cause that pressure problem inside these tanks like that is extreme changes in temperature. Again, another thing that happens living at 7,200 feet in Laramie, Wyoming, is that you'll leave one of these in your car overnight. It'll get down to -25, -30 in your car in the deep winter.
Or even down to just freezing.
Yeah. And then you'll go to use it, and of course, you're generating heat in here. That's going to cause everything in here to warm up, and that's going to cause the air in there to expand and push liquid out the bottom of the atomizer. So
usually the liquid doesn't freeze.
Right.
Usually, unless it gets down to very cold temperatures.
Right.
Because this liquid doesn't contain any water.
Right.
Or very, very little water. Because we don't add any water. But it will get very, very cold.
Right.
So that's another thing. Avoid leaving it in your vehicle.
Yeah, just carry it with you. Keep it on you like you would any other piece of personal equipment, like a cell phone or a wallet or something like that. I've been notified by our cameraman that we're running a little low on time for this video, so we'll probably end this one and transition to our next video that will be about basically equipment that's one step up from this. It's got variable voltage for increased heat at the atomizer, and it's also got some variable airflow to kind of simulate either a very tightly packed cigarette or something like a hookah. So, yeah, thanks.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah.